I want you to do something for me right now. Just reach into your pocket. Or maybe just look at your hand.
You are likely holding a smartphone,
Exactly. It's a miracle of engineering. You've got glass, silicon, rare earth metals.
all managed by a chip that's, what, smaller than a fingernail.
Right. Smaller than a fingernail. But be honest with me. Are you already thinking about the next one?
The one that's slightly thinner?
Oh.
Maybe has that new titanium finish.
Yeah, that one. The one with the better camera that you definitely need for taking pictures of your lunch. It's the upgrade cycle. It feels almost biological at this point, right? Like we are just conditioned to crave the new.
Well, it's not just conditioning. I mean, it's the engine of the modern economy. Planned obsolescence and perceived obsolescence. We buy, we use, we discard, and we repeat.
Right. But looking at the stack of research we've pulled for today's deep dive, specifically, we're looking at excerpts from the Framework and Future of Global Sustainable Development, alongside some AP Human Geography data. And that itch to upgrade has a price tag.
A massive one.
Yeah, a price tag that goes way beyond the monthly installment on your credit card.
It does. It is a hidden cost that is being billed directly to the planet's geography. And the bill is coming due a lot faster than people realize.
So today, we are stripping back the corporate buzzwords to look at one of the most critical and frankly most misunderstood concepts in modern geopolitics: sustainable development.
And before you roll your eyes at that,
Because I know sustainability gets slapped on everything from coffee cups to oil rig press releases.
right, but the source material argues that this isn't just a slogan.
No, the sources are stark about this. It isn't a marketing tactic. It is a survival strategy. It is basically the user manual for how we keep civilization running without crashing the server.
That's a good way to put it.
So let's look at the mission of this deep dive. We are taking this research on resource depletion, global economic frameworks, and the UN's policy shifts, and we're going to try to answer one specific question.
How do we balance making money, treating people fairly, and not setting the atmosphere on fire?
Simple, right? Just solve the three hardest problems in human history simultaneously.
Piece of cake.
But we have to start with the definition, because the term gets thrown around so much it's kind of lost its meaning. The executive summary in our source material references the classic Brundtland definition.
Right, so this comes from a UN commission back in the 80s. It defines sustainable development as meeting the needs of the present without wrecking the ability of future generations to meet their needs.
Okay, but isn't that a bit vague? I mean, wrecking the ability could mean anything.
Think of it like a trust fund. We are the beneficiaries today. We can live off the interest, so that's the renewable resources, the crops we grow, the solar energy we harvest.
Right.
But we cannot start spending the principal. If we eat our dinner tonight by consuming the seed corn for next year's harvest, our kids starve.
And the research paints a picture of a world that is currently eating a lot of seed corn. Which brings us to what the text calls the culture of mass consumption.
Which is really the driver of the bus here. We have to acknowledge that industrialization and consumption have given us amazing things. Better healthcare, longer lifespans, air conditioning, the internet.
But the source material highlights that the system runs on a linear model: extraction, production, consumption, disposal.
And the extraction part is hitting a wall.
Yeah, the section on resource depletion actually stopped me in my tracks. I think we assume the Earth is this bottomless vending machine. If we need more copper, we just dig another hole.
But the text specifically flags minerals. Coal, iron, copper.
Copper is huge, right?
Copper is the nervous system of the modern world. It's in your phone, your walls, the power grid, electric cars.
Well, the timeline in the notes is what got me. It says that at current consumption rates, key mineral resources could become increasingly scarce within 2 decades. 2 decades?
Yeah.
That sounds alarmist. Are we really going to run out of copper in 20 years?
We need to nuance that because running out is a tricky phrase in geology. We won't run out of atoms of copper. The Earth is full of them. But we will run out of economically viable copper.
So it's not that it's physically gone, it's that we just can't get to it.
Exactly. We've picked the low-hanging fruit. The massive high-grade deposits near the surface are mostly tapped out at this point.
Right.
To get more copper, we have to dig deeper, use significantly more energy to crush more rock, and refine lower-grade ore. So the cost, both financial and environmental, skyrockets. Becomes scarce because it becomes too expensive to extract compared to what people are willing to pay for it.
So the price of that phone doesn't just go up because of inflation. It goes up because the actual physics of getting the materials gets harder.
Precisely. And that's just the solids. When you look at liquids, specifically water, the bank account analogy gets even scarier.
Yeah, the research mentions industrial agriculture is draining aquifers at an alarming rate. And this introduced me to the concept of fossil water, which sounds like what dinosaur water.
In a way, yes. Some aquifers, like the Ogala in the U.S. or massive systems in North Africa, were filled thousands or even millions of years ago during entirely different climatic epochs. They don't replenish with rain at a human scale.
So it's not like a lake that fills up every spring when the snow melts.
No, not at all. When we pump that water to grow corn or cotton in arid regions, we are mining it, not harvesting it.
Mining water.
Yeah. Once it's gone for geological time.
Mm-hmm.
We are essentially liquidating a non-renewable asset to grow renewable crops.
So we are literally borrowing water from the future to grow strawberries in the desert today. That feels like a massive design flaw in our food system.
It's a classic case of short-term gain versus long-term viability. And while we are depleting the input, we are also overloading the output. The source uses a very distinct term for the pollution levels we're generating.
I highlighted that. It says industrial activities produce a metric buttload of byproducts. I really appreciate the academic rigor there.
I'm sure that's a highly technical term in some circles.
Yep.
But it captures the scale right. We aren't talking about a litter bug throwing a wrapper out a car window. We're talking about systemic waste.
Chemical saturated water being released into local supplies. Airborne particulates. The text draws a direct line between the upgrade cycle manufacturing that new phone and respiratory health issues in the communities where those factories are actually located.
And this is where the AP human geography part is crucial. The person enjoying the new titanium phone usually isn't the person breathing the factory air or drinking the painted water.
The benefits are concentrated in one place, usually the core wealthy nations, while the costs are exported to the periphery.
And the ultimate exported cost is climate change. You can't talk about this framework without talking about CO2.
It is the ultimate multiplier. The source links the Industrial Revolution directly to the massive spike in carbon dioxide.
Right. And the consequences listed in the text sea level rise high-intensity storms like hurricanes and wildfires. These are what experts call threat multipliers.
The text mentions the displacement of coastal populations, which is a very polite way of saying refugee crisis.
Exactly. If you have millions of people displaced by rising seas in Bangladesh or Florida, or you have failed crops in sub-Saharan Africa, that isn't just an environmental issue.
Right.
It's a political, economic, and humanitarian catastrophe.
Okay, so we've established that the house is effectively smoking, if not fully on fire. That's the problem. Let's pivot to the solution, the framework. The research calls sustainable development a nexus of 3 goals.
The 3 pillars.
Right. But looking at them, economic growth, social equity, environmental protection, it feels like these pillars naturally hate each other. They are enemies.
They are certainly in tension, and that's the core challenge.
Yeah.
Let's look at goal 1, which is economic growth. We need this. We can't just tell the developing world, hey, sorry, you have to stay poor to save the polar bears.
Because poverty is its own crisis. People need jobs, they need hospitals, they need infrastructure. You need money to solve those problems.
Precisely. Then you have goal 2, which is social equity, fairness, access to resources for everyone, and goal 3, environmental protection.
So the game is, how do I keep the factory running, that's the economy, while ensuring the workers aren't exploited and the neighbors aren't poisoned? That's equity without draining the aquifer dry, which is environment.
It's a juggling act. And here's why it fails so often. If you drop the environment ball, the economy eventually crashes anyway because you run out of resources.
Right.
But if you drop the economy ball, you don't have the tax base or the funding to invent green technology.
It feels like a total catch-22.
It is, unless you fundamentally change the mechanics of how the system works.
So let's look at how the source suggests we change those mechanics. It gives us 2 specific pathways. One is a specific industry approach, and one is a global policy approach. Let's start with the industry one, ecotourism.
This is a fascinating attempt to monetize conservation. It's basically capitalism trying to save nature by selling access to it.
The logic seems solid, though. If I can make more money showing a tourist a rare bird than I can by shooting the bird and selling the feathers the bird lives.
Right. You are transforming nature from a raw material into a renewable service. The standing forest becomes a permanent asset on the balance sheet.
The case study here in the text is the Galapagos Islands, which I have to admit is high on my bucket list.
As it is for a lot of people. It's a completely unique ecosystem. Over 2,000 species found nowhere else on Earth.
Wow.
And the source notes that tourism is the primary income source for the islands. Without those tourist dollars, the local economy would likely resort to overfishing or resource extraction just to survive.
But there's a paradox here. The source mentions they are really struggling to balance visitor demand. I mean, if I fly thousands of miles to see a pristine environment, my very presence there makes it less pristine.
It's the loving it to death problem. Foot traffic disrupts nesting sites. Boats bring in invasive species. More hotels mean more waste.
Yeah.
Each tourist adds stress to the carrying capacity of the island. And carrying capacity is just the maximum population an environment can sustain indefinitely.
But there is another economic downside, the text flags, and I want you to unpack this for me because it sounds completely counterintuitive. Leakage. It sounds like a plumbing issue, but we're talking about money.
It's a massive issue in the tourism industry, specifically in the developing world. Leakage happens when the money spent by a tourist doesn't actually stay in the local economy.
So if I book a $5,000 Eco-Lodge package to the Galapagos, I assume I'm helping the locals. Where does the money go?
Yeah, let's trace it. You fly an airline based in a wealthy country, so money goes there. You book through a U.S. or European travel agency, money stays there.
Okay.
You stay at a hotel chain owned by a multinational corporation. You eat food that had to be imported to cater to your Western palate because you want your specific brand of coffee or snacks.
So out of my $5,000, the local community might only see what?
Studies suggest in some markets less than 10 to 20% stays local. The capital leaks back to the core countries.
That's brutal. So the local environment takes the hit, the foot traffic, the waste, the water usage, but the local people don't even get the cash.
And the text mentions infrastructure disparity too. You often see this in resort towns. The resort has high-speed Wi-Fi purified water and 24/7 electricity.
But the village a mile down the road where the maids and cooks actually live has none of that.
Exactly. So ecotourism is a step in the right direction, but it's not a magic bullet. It often fails the social equity pillar because of this leakage. It creates an economy that serves the visitor, not the resident.
Which brings us to pathway number 2. If ecotourism is a micro attempt, this is the macro attempt, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs.
This is the heavy hitter in the research. It's a huge shift from how do we fix this one industry to how do we fix the entire philosophy of global development.
The source highlights a change in how we keep score, basically. For decades, development just meant GDP, gross domestic product. Did you make more stuff this year than you did last year?
GDP is the scoreboard everyone watches. If the line goes up, we cheer.
But GDP is a blunt instrument. It measures economic activity, not well-being.
Right. If you have a massive oil spill and you spend $1 billion cleaning it up, GDP actually goes up because money was spent. But is the country better off? Obviously no.
So the SDGs try to measure what they call human flourishing. I love that phrase. It sounds grand. But the actual initiatives listed in the text are very gritty and practical.
They are. It breaks development down into specific targets. Poverty alleviation, gender equity, clean water. It pushes for metrics closer to the Human Development Index, or HDI, which looks at things like literacy, life expectancy, and standard of living.
One of the tools listed to achieve this is microloans. This seems small, literally micro, but the research weighs it really heavily. Why is that?
Because it bypasses the massive corruptible infrastructure projects that often fail and puts capital directly into the hands of the people.
Give me an example.
You give a local woman a $100 loan to buy a sewing machine, or maybe better drought-resistant seeds.
She builds a business, pays back the loan, feeds her family, and sends her kids to school.
Exactly. It builds resilience from the bottom up. It creates that social equity that ecotourism often misses because the profit stays in her pocket in her village.
And there's public transportation. I think a lot of people often view transit as just a commute thing, but the source frames it as a sustainability superweapon.
Because it hits all three pillars simultaneously.
Yeah.
Environmentally, it slashes carbon emissions compared to 1 million individual cars. Economically, it gets people to jobs efficiently.
But socially, and this is key, it provides access.
Right.
If you can't afford a car and there's no bus line near you, you are literally locked out of the economy. You can't get to the interview. You can't get to the job.
Good transit democratizes opportunity. It totally levels the playing field.
And finally, green infrastructure. This is urban planning, handling waste, building renewable energy grids, basically rebuilding our cities so they work with the planet instead of fighting it.
It's moving away from gray infrastructure, so concrete pipes, massive dams, to systems that mimic nature.
What?
Like permeable pavement that absorbs rain or rooftop gardens that handle storm runoff naturally. It makes cities more livable and way less vulnerable to those climate disasters we talked about earlier.
Okay, so we have the plan with the SDGs. We have the tools with microloans, transit, green, infrastructure. The big question the listener's probably asking, and I'm asking it too, is any of this actually working? The source gives us a scorecard.
And the results are very mixed.
That's putting it diplomatically. The text points to a clear leader, and it's Denmark.
Denmark is the absolute poster child for this.
Mm-hmm.
They have managed to decouple growth from emissions.
Explain that decoupling concept, because usually those two lines move together, right?
Historically, yes. If you wanted your economy to grow, your pollution had to grow too. More factories meant more smoke.
Right.
But Denmark has managed to keep their economy growing steadily while their environmental footprint actually shrinks. They are proving that high standards of living don't have to destroy the planet.
But then we look at the other end of the spectrum. The source mentions sub-Saharan Africa is showing the least progress toward these goals. Now, it's easy to look at a map and judge, but the notes emphasize context here.
Context is everything. You cannot compare Denmark, a wealthy post-industrial nation with centuries of accumulated capital, with a region that is still trying to build its basic industrial base.
It's the hierarchy of needs.
Exactly. If you are a leader in a developing nation and your population is facing severe food insecurity or a lack of basic electricity, your priority is survival, not sustainability.
It's hard to worry about the aquifer running dry in 20 years when you're worried about feeding your village today.
That is the trap. The pressure to exploit resources for quick cash logging the forest, mining the copper, is immense because the immediate need is just so high. Asking them to leapfrog the dirty industrial phase that Europe and America got to benefit from is a huge ask.
It seems unfair, frankly. We got rich burning coal, and now we're telling them, hey, don't burn coal.
Which is why the international component of the SDGs is so critical. Wealthy nations have to help fund that leapfrog. We can't just wag our fingers from air-conditioned offices.
But it's not all doom and gloom. There is a silver lining in the data.
There is. The source notes a massive global shift toward renewable power. Solar and wind are becoming cheaper than coal in many places.
Which is huge.
It is, because it allows developing nations to potentially skip the dirty phase of energy entirely.
So the ship is turning. It's a supertanker, so it turns slowly, but the wheel is moving.
It represents a fundamental transition. We are moving away from the blind growth at all costs mentality. We are finally starting to ask growth for what, and growth at whose expense.
So let's bring this all back to you listening to this deep dive. We started with the phone in your pocket.
You are a participant in this system. We all are.
Every time you swipe a card, every time you choose to repair a jacket instead of buying a new one, every time you decide to take a train instead of a flight, you are pulling on one of those threads.
That phone in your pocket connects you to the copper mine in Chile, the factory in Southeast Asia, and the server farm running on, hopefully, wind, but maybe coal. You are the end point of that massive geographic chain.
The source material leaves us with a really provocative final thought. It says the ultimate challenge is striking a permanent balance between a globalized economy that demands more infinite growth and a planet that has finite resources.
The math is incredibly difficult. Can a system based on more ever truly be sustainable on a spherical planet with a fixed amount of stuff?
Some economists say technology will save us. That will get so efficient we won't need as much raw material. Others say we need to totally rethink the idea of growth entirely. Like maybe success isn't just having more things.
It's the biggest question of our time. And the answer isn't in a textbook, yet we are writing it in real time.
It's a question that doesn't have an easy answer, but it's one we're all going to have to figure out. Maybe the next upgrade we need isn't for our hardware, but for our operating system, the way we define value itself.
I couldn't agree more.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Keep questioning the systems around you.
It was a pleasure. Stay curious.
We'll catch you on the next one.